Здраво, Македонијо! Добре дојдовте во вечерното шоу во кое прегледот на поинтересните настани од минатата недела го започнуваме од 19-тиот век. Јес, оваа вечер е посветена на напредните технологии, па и ние во Македонија имаме такви, конкретно машини за патување низ времето. Па да тргнеме од 19-тиот век.
Ниту една партија не ја поддржува идејата на ДУИ за регионализација на државата налик на Белгија и Швейцарија, како и за озаконување на Мајскиот договор за владино коалицирање победник со победник меѓу македонците и албанците. Македонскиот блок партии сметаат дека тоа е вовед за федерализација на државата, но и недемократски принцип за формирање на влада. Дополнително од владеачката ВМРО-ДПМН сметаат дека ДУИ презема очајни потези за да ја задржи коалицијата на Европскиот фронт до локалните избори.
ДУИ кога се на власт зборуваат за интеграција, а кога се во опозиција ги земаат идеите за дезинтеграција.
Идејата на Ахмети, промовирана и пред 2 дена во колумна на поранешниот министер за надворешни работи Османи, не е прифатлива ни за албанскиот коалициски партнер во владата. ДУИ веќе објави дека официјално работи на така наречена политичка платформа за меѓуетнички легитимитет. Се работи за автентично толкување на Охридскиот договор од 2001, кој го бара Ахмети со цел да покаже дека оваа влада со вреди нема легитимитет. Со цел поддршка на своите тези, ДУИ го ангажирале и Пол Вилијамс, меѓународен посредувач во конфликти кој работеше и на Охридскиот договор.
Белја работа бе. Велеа или ќе влеземе во влада или во ЕУ. Па во влада не влегоа и сега се спремаат за во ЕУ. Како? Со федерализација на Македонија, затоа што ДУИ не се во власта, а мораат да бидат. Така е пишано во светите книги. Плюс, во Брисел едва и чекаат да влезат, само ДУИ им фалат, а може би и во Америка ќе ги примат, кој знае, чим експертот таму ангажирале, може да размислат да влезат во Соединетите Американски држави. Уште една звезда на знамето, таа на шерифот Ахмети. Какви дилајли!
Американскиот експерт Пол Вилијамс, кој е ангажиран да го скрои текстот за ДУИ, за ТВ Клам потврдил дека неговата адвокатска канцеларија работи на прашањето за меѓуетнички легитимитет преку изработка на платформа за правична застапеност во процесот на формирање на владата, доколку предлогот дојде во форма како што се шпекулира за поделба по региони како Белгија и Северна Ирска. Каракамишева вели дека правните последици може да ги сноси ДУИ.
Секое неуставно или противправно делување на некоја политичка партија, особено доколку се повикува на уривање на уставниот поредок, може да доведе до нејзина политичка, но и кривична одговорност, па и да се изрече забрана за нејзино действување во рамките на националниот систем.
Лесно ко 2 и 2 за ДУИ. Си направиле план. Ке платиме десетици, можеби и стотици илјади евра на некој американски експерт кој ќе ни напише она што ќе му го побараме, да си го напише како негова експертиза, така да ја подпише и сите во Македонија ќе паднат на гс од овој документ. Или ДУИ во власт, или федерализација на Македонија. Многу е јака оваа демократскава унија за интеграција. Не важи за нив уставот според кој 61 пратеник прави влада. Не, морало ДУИ да е внатре. Не важи волјата на мнозинството, ДУИ баш морале да се во власта. Многу тешко им паѓа опозицијата, па решиле да ја потпалуваат државата до локалните до година со глупости за кои и тие самите признаат дека се затворени, односно дека рамковниот договор е одамна завршена работа. Не бил, бидејќи тие не се во власта, иако таму не пишува никаде дека ДУИ мора да е во власта. Ама така е во 19-тиот век, времето на темнината, ако нема тендери, нема светлина, ако нема привилегии за врхушката во партијата. Тежок живот е, време е за револуција.
Од најмоќни во власта до пад во најголем очај во опозиција, ова е накратко приказната на ДУИ, која сега од улога на губитник последниот месец се обидува популистички да ја продаде идејата дека принципот победник со победник, ако и тие самите го погазија во 2017-та, сега морал да се озакони. Вакво законско решение би било противуставно, зашто во највисокиот правен акт јасно пишува дека мандатот го добива оној кој има освоено најмногу пратенички мандати, а за формирање влада не е потребно ништо освен 61 глас. Новинарот Дженури Сениза Алфа вели дека партијата на Али Ахмети во моментов се наоѓа во и повеќе од незавидна ситуација.
ДУИ ова идеја што го прокламира да го озаконува принципот победник се победник, прва го прекрши во 2016 година, како што знаеме Македонија е унитарна држава и влада формираат ова мнозинство што има 61 глас. и мислам дека Дуи овој недели уште не научиле да биде опозиција.
Дуи со години важеше за партија која имаше поддршка од странскиот фактор, но според политичкиот аналитичар Љузим Фаризи, тоа се променило последниот период. За Алфа вели дека проблем плюс за Дуи може да биде што не станува збор за идеолошка партија, туку обична клиентелистичка организација каде членството гледа само за своја корист, а партијата ја гледа како агенција за вработување или пат до одредени тендери кој сега е затворен.
Си прават вакви екзибиции, буквално со тоа дека ангажирале експерт од странство кој е консултант, односно адвокатско друштво и кој ќе им прави ревизија, односно на самиот договор за истиот кој каде од Дуи го прогласеа дека е веќе завршен и имплементиран во целост.
Добро, доста со 19-тиот век. Со нашата временска машина одиме во 21-виот век во кој Али Ахмети му порачуваше на Христијан Мицкоски дека тој јадел кекси, гураби и млеко, а после избори Али не може да се дозабрише од лигите кои му течат по фотелите кои ги изгубија бидејќи беа ептен проевропски настроени, како на пример вака.
Нов криминален скандал во кој е вмешан познатиот внук на Али Ахмети, Дрин Ахмети, кој без вложен денар стана косопственик на деловниот центар Соравија. Тој и неговиот брат Бесијан Ахмети, кој инаку е дипломатски службеник во амбасадата во Брисел, се сомничат за злоупотреба на концесијата за рудника и Кичево. Двајцата браќа се соочуваат со правни последици поради неплаќање на државни давачки во рамки на нивното раководење со фирма за експлоатација на варовник. Станува збор за концесијата која ја добила фирмата Еверест џд и во која актуелниот дипломат во Брисел, Бесијан Ахмети, бил директор до 2017-та. Потоа ја презел неговиот брат, добро познатиот на јавноста Дрин Ахмети. Седиштето на фирмата Еверест се наоѓа во Соравија, чија купопродажба е во тек и се изведува од страна на групацијата предводена од Дрин Ахмети. За подсетување, Дрин Ахмети, внукот братот на познатиот Али Ахмети, стана значаен фактор во деловниот свет на Македонија, откако стана газда на Соравија, откаде предизборно се повлече. Обвинителството се уште истражува како тој стана сопственик на милионски капитал, без да вложи ниту денар.
Како станал бе собственик на милионски капитал без да вложи денар? Па нормално со автентично толкување на рамковниот договор, како. Но не запираме тука, има уште.
По кривичните пријави за внуците на Али Ахмети продолжува да се стега обрачот околу сега опозицијската Дуи и сомнежите за криминал сторени во текот на нивното владење. Се чешла работењето на државна лотарија каде директор се уште е Перпарим Бајрами, кој важи за еден од најблиските до Артан Груби. На владина седница констатирано дека постоело незаконско делување на државна лотарија.
Констатирано е дека државна лотарија незаконски доделувала лиценци за приредување на игри на среќа, за што ќе бидат информирани и надлежни истражни институции.
Инаку сомнежи за криминал во државна лотарија постојат со години. На само 2 дена пред изборот на техничката влада објавија дека ќе потрошат дури 11 милиони и 800 илјади евра за набавка на видеолотариски терминали за приредување игри на среќа. Оваа набавка дојде само една година откако беше договорен тендер со 19 годишен предприемач од Куманово за слична набавка на машини за коцкање. Јавноста уште не добила одговор за наводите дека државна лотарија го изнајмила деловниот простор од поранешниот ресторан Фестина во Визбегово за 21.000 евра месечно и тоа за период од 10 години или договор тежок 2,6 милиони евра со компанија блиска на Дуи. Мрежа на фирми како што беше објавено во медиумите завршува кај бизнис партнери поврзани со зетот на Али Ахмети, Куштрим Смајлај. Перпарим Бајрами претходно склучи договор и со Арберија Дизајн, која е омилена фирма на Дуи и редовно добиваше тендери од коалицијата СДСМ Дуи.
Живот компот. Еден ден си правиш дилови за милиончиња државни пари да завршуваат кај тебе или твои блиски, а друг ден МВР те истражува, обвинителството те гњави, а твоите стари другарчиња од стратешките земји ти велат јеби га окјоревте од крадење, носете се со тоа или носете се у Европа, барем пробајте да видите како ќе си поминете. Тоа се технолошките достигнувања во Македонија во моментов. Патувавме низ времето и откривме дека ако им скинеш милионски тендери на криминалци, решаваат дека ќе ја делат државата. Па ангажирали американски експерт. Сега, и ние ангажиравме американски експерт за да зборуваме реално за 21. век со него, а човекот, бога ми, има што да каже. Се работи за едно момче родено во Канада, но со потекло од Македонија. Неговото име е Крис Павловски, основач е на речиси $2 милиарди вредниот бизнис компанијата Rumble. И пред да ви го пуштам ексклузивното интервју, кое во краткиот престој во Македонија го даде само за вечерното шоу, во 2-3 реда објаснување за оние кои не знаат кој е Крис и што се прави во животот. Има видеоплатформа која е фундаменталист во борбата за слобода на говор и изразување. До тоа ниво да реагира вака кога некоја влада ќе побара одреден новинар кој има сметка на Rumble да биде цензуриран.
You control, I think you've got the plurality of share. I mean, you're the guy at this multi-billion-dollar company that allows the free flow of information. So, like, how long can that last? And are you worried? At Twitter, they salted Twitter with intel agents. There are 15 of them just on LinkedIn. You know, I work for NSA, now I work at Twitter. Like, why wouldn't that happen to you?
Well, number one, the best part about Rumble is they all know our DNA. And I think they'd be scared to even approach us when it comes to doing things that are nefarious like that. Perfect example is France. That was the first moment where a government came to us and said, hey, we want you to remove this content off your platform. We don't like the information. It happened to be RT.
RT, the cable channel.
Yes, the RT channel. The Russia
It was kicked out of the United States.
Yeah, I think they're allowed. I don't know if they were kicked out of the US, but they were kicked out of Europe for sure.
Yeah.
And the French government said, we're going to turn you off at the telco level. This means, imagine AT&T and Verizon turning off Rumble at the telco level if you don't remove RT because you're violating sanctions. First, Rumble has no operations in France. We're not a French company. We're an American company, to an extent Canadian as well, but American. We're headquartered in the United States now. We have no employees in France, no operations. They have no jurisdictional reason to even come to us. But they said they're going to turn us off at the telco level. And obviously, we're hosting Truth Social. We're hosting Tim Pool's website on our cloud. If they were to turn us off at the telco level, there'd be a lot of collateral damage by turning those guys off too.
Yeah. So
we made the decision to tell France to go pound sand, and we turned them off.
Do they, as a technical matter, a government has the ability to block your information within their borders?
As a technical matter, you could technically achieve that without a doubt. If you want to turn off, a website, you can turn off a website. And France didn't RT does not violate our policy. So we have our terms and conditions. You abide by our policies.
You're making me want to watch RT very, very much. I don't watch RT, but now you're making me want to watch it. Why is the government of France willing to shut down your website so that people can't watch RT?
That is like the most concerning thing I've ever seen in my life, is when a government comes and dictates to a person what they can or cannot see or cannot hear or cannot watch. That's frightening. Not because that content is doing something illegal, but because they don't like the propaganda or what they're saying or the ideas that they're saying. Banning propaganda or banning ideas is abhorrent to me, and seeing that's like a hallmark of like the 1940s.
That's dictatorship, of course. Yeah,
it's nowhere where this world should go ever. Everyone should have an option to go see what the other side is saying, whether you agree with them or disagree with them.
That's right.
And a government coming in and saying, you can't do that, is not something I want to participate or be a part of.
So what happened?
We shut them off. We shut off France entirely. You would try to access Rumble in France, it'll say, your government asked us to turn us off, go talk to them. So now we're litigating against them to prevent them from being able to do that.
Видиш, две работи научивме. Прво, во светот има и други поважни теми на кои се зборува, како например владината цензура и слободата на говор, како и отпорот кој го пружаат поединци како Крис, Павловски. Значи, можело и така. Некоја си влада ќе бара Рамбл да избрише профил или да цензурира некој кој не им се допаѓа на владите што пишувал и што правел? Одговорот на Рамбл е па ние ќе ви ја исклучиме цела држава од нашиот сервис, од нашата платформа, па вие после објаснувајте се со вашите граѓани зошто тоа се случило. За разлика од дуи кои ќе ја делат нели државата ако не им оди политиката од рака, владиве решаваат да воведуваат цензура и не е само Франција, нели лулката на европската култура, туку и други наводно цивилизирани земји знаат да одиграат по тоталитаристички начин. Продолжуваме со запознавање на ликот и делото на нашиот вечерашен ексклузивен гостин. Еве што се случува меѓу Рамбл и Бразил.
For us, obviously it's a pillar of ours to stand for free expression, to not influence and to not, preference. And that's something that we will continue to stand for. I think that in the test of time, we've been the one that's been doing it the longest. I see us as being the tip of the spear. We've gone as far as shutting off countries like Brazil and shutting off countries like France when they came to us to try to turn content off on Rumble, not based on like illegal content or any content that violates our terms of service, but because they did not like the creator on the platform that was on our platform. It didn't violate any of our terms of services. They just said, hey, we want this creator removed. We don't want to tell you
like
why,
France,
but then
France wanted you mentioned France, they wanted you to take off Russia Today, RT, right? From Rumble.
Correct.
As a punishment to Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. You know what? There may be people in America who find that interesting content. Maybe they're persuaded by it. Maybe they just want to see what Russia's saying about it. Maybe they view it as propaganda and it's interesting. I don't know what their reasons are. Who cares? France comes to Rumble to say, take that channel off of Rumble. And you said, I'll do you one better. I'll take you off of Rumble, France. You're done. Our relationship with you is done.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And a very similar thing happened in Brazil as well. It was, creators that were opposing the current Supreme Court, I believe, and they asked to remove, and we said basically no, and we left Brazil as well. So I think when it comes to fighting for free expression, Rumble is the tip of the spear. We're the only company that I know of at our scale that's actually turning off countries and following US law rather than, following, let's say, another jurisdiction's law. We're not a company that operates in China. We're not going to follow Chinese law. And the same thing goes for France and Brazil. And if they want to be in the same bucket as China, that's their prerogative. But Rumble's going to stand strong, and we're going to stand really strong when it comes to our values. And I enjoy being the tip of the spear. It's something that I take a lot of pride in, and if hopefully more countries don't follow that, but definitely if they do, they all know how we'll react.
Добро е да се види безкомпромисната борба на група луѓе, особено кога таа група е предводена од наше дете, по татко и по мајка, од Преспа и Мариовско, Крис Павловски, човекот кој не само што им овозможи на американците кои се најдоа во немилост на YouTube да имаат свое место каде гласно ќе говорат, а меѓу нив е и председателот Трамп, туку и се скара со цела Франција затоа што барале да ја банира Russia Today, руската телевизија од Рамбл во Франција. А еве пак сега што се случува меѓу Рамбл и Русија. Иронија на максимално ниво.
But first, Chris Pavlowski, the CEO of Rumble, announced today that Russia has banned Rumble. That's right, Russia has banned Rumble. Let's take a look at his tweet. Russia has officially blocked Rumble because we refuse to comply with their censorship demands. Ironically, YouTube is still operating in Russia, and everyone needs to ask what Russian demands Google and YouTube are complying with. Good question. Interesting. He's not giving us any more details at the moment as to what the demands were that Russia had on Rumble that Rumble refused to adhere to. What's interesting about this in particular is that Rumble was one of the only, if not the only platform that was still actually hosting RT and other Russian outlets that were banned in the United States after the Russian invasion in Ukraine. Rumble was demonized for continuing to host Russian media. And now, apparently, according to Chris, there is something that Russia demanded that Rumble was not willing to comply with, and so they've now blocked Rumble because of that.
Кога си принципиелен за очекување и да немаш баш и премногу пријатели. Иако Рамбл се повлече од Франција, затоа што Франција бараше да ја отстрани од својот сервис таму руската телевизија Russia Today, Рамбл е сега блокиран и во Русија, затоа што и нив не им прифатил цензорски барања. Епа, ако баравте дефиниција на човек со исправена кичма, ете го видовте пред вас. Ги разоткрива сите хипокрити ширум светот, кои добро се опишуваат со приличевата лицем светци, срцем вълци, уста полна демократија, дела полни тиранија и тоталитаризам. А за сите нас се бори. Затоа, добро следете.
I think it's a really important one. Globally, you don't really realize how awesome America really is until you start to see how to operate globally. We're banned in China. We're banned in Russia. We've pulled out of France. We've pulled out of Brazil. We've gotten like letters that would made my skin like my hair stand on my skin from like governments in New Zealand, the health ministry in particular, trying to censor journalists. It's been scary to see how the world is trending towards censorship, but it's also been very amazing to see that, you know, America's founded on the principle of the First Amendment, and how strong that really is here, and how, you know, the judicial system till now has upheld that. So you really get to see that America really is the bastion for free speech and freedom of expression. And I think people forget that free speech freedom of expression is a human right. Even the UN Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19, outlines that freedom of expression is a human right.
Поради сите овие случувања, а конкретно причините за повлекување на Рамбл од Бразил, Крис Павловски имаше сведочење и пред Американскиот Конгрес, пред Комитетот за надворешни работи. Уште малку мудрост од нашиот вечерашен гостин, чисто да знаете со каков габарит и штов ќе имаме работа.
It's extremely troubling to me that in 2024, I have to come before the US Congress to testify that these fundamental rights are being threatened. For years, we saw platforms shadow ban ideas they did not agree with. It was subtle suppression of ideas and opinions that did not fit the norm as dictated by algorithms. Today, the censorship we see is much more overt. Governments are acting in ways we only imagine happening 50 to 60 years ago, openly asking platforms to censor and take down disfavored content. They are back in the business of thinking they know what's best, dictating and controlling conversations and stripping the human right to speak and share freely. These are not theoretical fears. These things are happening, and I know this personally as the CEO of a platform that receives demands from governments around the world. One of the first instances of government censorship we experienced did not come as a surprise, as it came from communist China. Communist governments often crack down on a variety of freedoms, including freedom of expression. However, we were surprised in 2022 when we received a request from the French government to block certain news sources. People can certainly question the trustworthiness of news sources, but it should not be any government's job to selectively eliminate access to information. Rather than comply with the French government's request, we simply disabled the access to the platform in France and challenged the legality of this demand. To be clear, Rumble has a strong set of content guidelines under our terms and conditions, but the content the French government was asking us to censor did not violate any of our terms. Instead, it was regarding Russian news outlets. Earlier this year, we received requests from the Brazilian government to remove certain creators from our platform. Again, the content did not violate our terms and conditions, but instead shared opinions that were unpopular in Brazil at the time. Rumble made a very tough decision not to comply with the government's request. As with France, we chose to disable access for our users in Brazil while we challenged the legality of the Supreme Court's demands. It does not stop there. Just last month, we received requests from New Zealand and Australia to censor politically unpopular content.
Countries in every hemisphere, all of the members of the United Nations, are no longer upholding the human right to freedom of expression. This is getting out of control, and it should alarm everyone in this room. As this committee knows, the United States is involved in so many initiatives to protect democracy around the world. But when it comes to defending the freedom of speech and protecting American businesses who attempt to uphold this right in Brazil, the United States has been silent. It cannot remain so. It does not matter which platform hosts the content. Today it is Rumble, yesterday it was X, but tomorrow it could be the New York Times. The platform shouldn't matter. The universal right to freedom of speech and expression, the core of Western democracy, is at stake. America needs to step up and take a leading role. Rumble will never back down from our mission. We are the tip of the spear in this fight, and we relish that. We urge everyone, especially the US State Department, to join us. I'll close with one final thought. Every totalitarian regime that has crushed the rights of individuals has sought to control what people can say and hear. It's never the good guys doing the censoring. If the United States won't stand up for freedom of speech, who will?
Дами и господо, внимавајте добро на овој маш и запомнете го добро неговото име. Води битка која е исклучително важна за сите луѓе на планетата. Битката за човекови права, правото на слободно мислење, слободен говор и слобода на изразување. Не затоа што мора, туку затоа што така сака. Затоа што е така направен, така е изграден, просто кажано. Чест ми е да ви го најавам интервјуто со Крис Павловски во вечерното шоу. Уживајте во следните 30 на минути и дознајте што ќе прави Крис во Македонија со новата влада. So, today I'm having with me Крис Павловски, one of the maybe most famous people who originates from Macedonia, most famous Macedonians in the world today. I don't have much time because he agreed to this interview on such a short notice, so I'll try to make the best out of the time we have. Chris, thank you. I really appreciated you answering the inquiry for the interview. Glad to have you on the show.
Super honored to be here. Glad to be with you.
At the start, can you please walk the audience through a little bit of the history of Rumble? If I'm correct, at this moment, the second biggest video service in the world, right? And the only one who promotes freedom of expression.
Yeah, so I believe we're at the tip of the spear when it comes to promoting and pushing back against censorship. We're fighting governments all around the world. We're essentially the main place for freedom of expression when it comes to online video platforms. With social media, you have X, and then you have Truth Social as well, which Donald Trump owns. And when it comes to video, Rumble is the foremost leader in that, in my opinion. I'll kind of bring it back and give you kind of the story of how we got here, because I think it's a fascinating story of how exactly we got here. I've been in this space for over 2 decades, over 20 years, building websites out of my parents' basement, trying to make money. And
the American dream, basically. Although it's in Canada, right?
Yeah, so I was born in Canada. We headquartered now into Sarasota, Florida, so we're in the United States. But it is the American dream. It is real. I'm a living example of the dream. You know, I couldn't be more honored to be in this position than I am in. But it did start like 2 decades ago, building websites out of my parents' basement. And I noticed around 2007, Google acquired YouTube, kind of sucked up all the oxygen in the room, became like the #1 video platform in the world. And then around 2010, I noticed that the big platforms, in particular YouTube, were starting to preference big creators, corporations, brands, influencers, and they were kind of forgetting about the friends and family, your aunts and your uncles.
The regular Joes.
Yeah, just like, you know, the people that we know. And they really went after like those big creators. So by 2013, it really became very apparent. I started Rumble in 2013 on the premise of helping that small creator, the friends, the family, the families, the aunts, the uncles,
in kind of bringing them the monetization and distribution tools they were no longer getting on the incumbent platform YouTube. So we launched Rumble in late 2013. Fast forward about 6-7 years, it was the summer of 2020, and I got a phone call. At this point in time in my life, I was living in Canada, Toronto, Canada, and I got a phone call from the ranking member of the U.S. House Intel Committee in the United States Congress, who was also with me here on this trip. Congressman, he's now former Congressman Devin Nunes, and now he's the CEO of Truth Social, Trump Media and Technology Group. But I got a phone call from him, and as a Canadian, I was like, am I under some kind of investigation? Like, what is going on? And he had a really simple question. He was like, Chris, if I bring my content to Rumble and I search for my name, will I be able to find it? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Of course. So he brings his content to Rumble, and within 2 to 3 months, he gains about 200,000 to 300,000 subscribers on Rumble. Now, when you put this in context to what he's done on YouTube, he's been promoting his YouTube channel for 4 years, since 2016 to 2020, and he had his podcast there, and he only had 10,000 subscribers. Wow. While he's an elected member of Congress and promoting his channel in his district, and he only had 10,000 subscribers. So how is it that Rumble had 200,000 to 300,000 in 2 to 3 months, and he only had 10,000 on YouTube? You can call it shadow banning, you can call it censorship, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Whatever it wasn't right. So this happened, and then we had Dan Bongino join our platform, and then shortly after Dan Bongino joined the platform, Rumble exploded and became the leader in the movement for free expression and just treating creators fairly without picking favorites. Our winning formula is just treating everybody fairly, equally, and not really picking favorites. And by the middle of 2021, we had the 45th president, President Donald Trump, joined the platform officially. We were the first platform that he joined.
Was it after they broke ties with Twitter at the moment?
Correct. That's correct. Yeah. So we were the first place he went to once that happened. He came in around June, July of 2021. By late 2022, we went public on the NASDAQ with a multi-billion-dollar valuation. And the company that helped take us public was Cantor Fitzgerald, which is owned by Howard Lutnick, who's also here in Macedonia with me on this trip. And and then last week we're probably one of the most popular platforms at the RNC convention for the when J.D. Vance and was nominated to be the vice presidential candidate, and Donald Trump is now the official nominee for the Republican Party for president of the United States. And one little thing I forgot to add in there, in 2021, it was actually J.D. Vance who first invested in Rumble through Naria Capital in around April of 2021. So
he was the first outside the inner circle?
He was the first outside investment that came into this company in 2021 alongside Vivek Ramaswamy, you might be familiar with. He was also one of the presidential candidates for the Republican Party. He was competing for that, which Donald Trump won. But yeah, J.D. Vance was one of the first investors in Rumble in 2021.
You just came here in Macedonia a couple of days, 3-4 days after the Republican National Convention. Before we go more into Rumble, I want to use this opportunity to ask you, was it emotional? I mean, only a couple of days after the luckily failed assassination attempt on President Trump, and you were maybe the biggest media outlet in my eyes over there. You were covering the entire convention, held many panels. So did you feel, you personally, like you're doing something really massive and special for the entire world at that moment? With, I mean, Rumble being what it is, helping hand towards the group of people in the United States. I will not say that it's exclusively the right-wing conservatives, but to the people who were excluded from the mainstream neoliberal traditional and digital media.
Yeah, that week was obviously very emotional with the situation that happened with the assassination attempt on President Trump. Thankfully, by the grace of God, he's alive today and safe. But it was very emotional. But one thing I did notice at the RNC convention that was very apparent is that it was very united. The energy was very different. It was a unitedness I haven't really seen when it came to the Republicans. They were all in lockstep and all very united and had an enormous amount of energy that unlike anything I've ever seen in terms of rallying behind the president and behind J.D. Vance. So that was really, really nice to see. And when it comes to Rumble, yeah, we have a neutral position, and we always want to have a neutral position. We have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also on our platform, who's one of the independents, formerly on the Democratic side. He's also on Rumble. He's using Rumble for a lot of his streaming and his content as well. But, being the tip of the spear against corporate media, and you kind of saw it happen that weekend. You saw CNN put out,
shameful,
really embarrassing articles about, they didn't even want to call it an assassination attempt. They were, I saw one
fell off the stage.
Yeah, he fell off the stage. He didn't fall off the stage. He had a bullet hit his head. It was disgusting what we saw in the corporate media, but it also exposed the corporate media to such a large degree that people have really started to wake up and really start to realize that when you're watching corporate television and corporate TV, you're watching an agenda. You're watching people twist things in a way that is frankly inappropriate and on many different levels. But when you're watching people on Rumble, there is no agenda. You're getting an honest, authentic opinion from somebody that doesn't have any specific agenda from some corporate entity, some massive corporate entity. So I think, both on Rumble, on Truth, on X, you're starting to see this really kind of progress, and people really starting to wake up to this, frankly, biased propaganda that you're seeing on these other networks. And you can now just make the distinction between everything, because you can get your news on Rumble, you can get your news on X, you can get your news on Truth Social. There's no more need to always use corporate media and get fed stuff that has an agenda. You can now get authentic dialogue and authentic conversation out of people, whoever you want to pursue to watch. So, I think that was very exposing that weekend. Obviously, when it came to Rumble, we had some massive shows following during the week of the RNC convention.
Yeah, I saw the one with Dan Bongino, Tucker Carlson,
it was
Don Jr. and yourself.
Yeah, I was on a show with them for a little bit. I showed up on a lot of different shows there, but you can kind of definitely see now all the independent voices are getting a lot more traction. Independent media is growing, which is a great thing, because independent media doesn't have any agenda. Corporate media does, and it's very important for the people to understand that and seek that out and try to hear all different sides of the story, not just hear what corporate media is saying in unison. Because he didn't fall off the stage, I can tell you that. That was definitely not true. It's an honor to be in the position that I'm in, to be able to give voices to President Trump when he didn't have one. That's a great honor, to give voices to many different people that don't have it. Whether I agree with them or don't agree with them, it doesn't matter. Everyone has, it's their human right to be able to have the ability to have freedom of expression.
Voltaire, right?
It's
even if I don't agree with your opinion, I do my best for you to be able to share your opinion.
That's what free speech is, right? You have to be able to handle things you don't like to hear sometimes. That's what we do. We do at Rumble. We give people voices, and we don't judge them for what they say.
Don't you feel pressure by having, for instance, the possible VP of the United States as your stakeholder, and also the possible 47th President of the United States as your client, because you have also a cloud service which hosts Truth Social. for instance, don't you think that things might go south one day, or it only inspires you to hold your backbone straight up as you've done so far?
You know, over time, you get tougher, you get stronger, and you in the beginning, you kind of get worried about attacks, and as you get, you go through it more and more, you get stronger, and you kind of build thicker skin. And for me, personally, everything's an honor to be able to give people services that allow them to build things and say things. And I don't regret any bit of it, ever. And I never will. Like, what I'm doing is on the right side of history. I am upholding freedom of expression. That is, free speech is the First Amendment of the United States of America. This is a right that every American has. And to be able to be allowing free speech is an honor for me, and it always will be. This is an easy thing for me to do because it's such an important thing to society. It's also not just America that sees that as a very important thing. The United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 19, is freedom of expression. This is a human right. So whether I'm providing services to anybody, whether, whatever happens to them in the future, it's always an honor for me to be able to do that because I'm doing something that is allowing for freedom. You don't have civil rights movements, you don't have women's rights movements, you don't have any positive movements in society without the ability to speak freely. It doesn't exist. And Rumble is the cornerstone of helping that happen in today's society. But these laws that we put in, the First Amendment, is the cornerstone of a constitutional republic, a democracy. It's the cornerstone for making the world a better place. As much as many people fight against that, they're wrong. We've seen it through history. The history books have been written. We know when you take away speech, it leads to tyranny. Those are facts that we've seen. And there's no arguing that. And you can just look into the history of all the great movements that have happened. They've all come from the ability to speak freely.
Or in the past couple of years, for instance, the Russian meddling narrative, the COVID narratives, the Hunter Biden laptop censorships all around the
It goes back even further than that. It goes to Galileo. They put him in jail for thinking the earth revolved around the sun. There's what you might think is fact today can change tomorrow. And the facts are all in perspectives. Like, whose perspective are you looking at? There's the Alexander the Great story here in Macedonia, and there's a lot of different varying opinions on that. Who's right? Like, one will say one is misinformation, the other one will say one is misinformation. We all have different perspectives, and having the ability to speak through that and be able to say that is absolutely vital. Someone that says you can't say that, that's tyranny. That's wrong. That's not the world that I want to live in.
How did we came to a point in the modern society when the services which tend to share at the start, I've heard the story from your interviews also, funny videos. I mean, we're probably the same age. I'm 38 years old. So I know all of the funny videos which were at the start of the internet, like people having fun, then started receiving information. And then at some point it became a fight for narratives. Censorship started. The digital media became a powerful instrument in the hands of some people.
Yeah.
How did it get this far?
That's simply a function of corporate media losing control to the people. That's how I see that. The people started to get more information. They got more control of their information. And this is big institutions fighting back against trying to keep their control and their power. When we know that, things like Rumble and Truth and X are, in my opinion, the future, because they allow independent voices to thrive. And these are large institutions that have been around for a long time. Of course they're going to fight. It's in their incentive to fight because they're losing their viewers to places that are providing more authenticity. So it's only natural that fight will occur, and you just,
Also, it's natural the reaction, which is now Rumble and through social and other
when
media, right?
you say he falls off the stage, it's going to be very natural that people are going to gravitate to Rumble because people are going to see right through that. It's disgusting. So like the more mistakes they make and the more biased they become, the more we grow, and the more people realize that they can find their authentic voices on places like Rumble.
So in Macedonia, we have a little different perspective than you living in the States. You're aware of that. I mean, you come here quite often, I presume. But the importance of Rumble and the other services on a worldwide scale is something which we will feel. If not like you, but we will feel it. But I want to explain to the public what is the greatest asset, the most important thing that Rumble offers to the people, and in perspective, what might happen in Macedonia. You're here doing something. I'm excited to learn more about it, although Rumble has yet to develop in Macedonia. I mean, to be widespread amongst the public, if that is your interest, because we're a small market. But what might come out of this? You personally are not so fond of communicating with governments, but now, yesterday, something different happened in Macedonia. You had a meeting with the Prime Minister, with the distinguished guests you brought here. What will Rumble mean for Macedonia in the future?
Well, first off, both my parents are Macedonian.
Born here, right?
Born in Macedonia. I was born in Toronto, Canada. My dad was born in Prespa region. My mom was born in the Mediovo region. And I've always done everything I can for helping Macedonia. I've brought in millions of investment into this country a year. We're bringing in like 3 to 4 million a year right now. And I see that growing. It has been growing. It's been growing since 2011, so it continues to grow. Rumble is heavily invested here. So, in the perspective of myself, like personally, I love Macedonia. I've been taught since I was born how to speak the language, and then I kind of forgot it apparently when I was 3 or 4, and then I'm kind of getting it back a little bit. Malta, yeah, just. But I have a real passion for this place and helping this place. I have nothing but passion to help this place. The history, the rich history it has from Alexander's time to even prior to that. I've had a personal. I'm personally like studying that like for a decade. Yeah, I've really kind of gone deep in that.
I have a gift for you then at the end of the talk.
And all the way till now, and just kind of understanding these lands from the Aegean to Polonia, Pelagonia,
it means to you, the identity,
the whole area. It's just very meaningful to me. So I've always wanted to help here, and I've always wanted to make a big impact. And I've been able to make a small impact for the last decade, and it's been growing and growing and growing.
You were busy helping the world.
Okay. Yeah, and Rumble is serving like a really important. It's really serving an important part of society, and pushing free speech and pushing governments. And when we see an opportunity to work with the government that is going to help on that end, I think it's very important that we talk to them. And obviously, with the new incoming administration, I'm very hopeful that there's a lot of opportunity here to really put Macedonia on a map in a way that it's never been. And I think, in my capacity of what I do at Rumble, I have an opportunity to help in a bigger way than I ever have. So that's why I'm here. Obviously, we've launched, because we fight for free speech, we've launched the Rumble Cloud. All of Rumble itself sits on our infrastructure. That's
It's
across
basically
the
your
United
own
States.
infrastructure.
Yes, because we can't rely on big tech. And Trump Media and Technology Group also uses our cloud because they can't rely on big tech.
If Donald Trump trusts you, I see no reason the Macedonian government won't trust you.
So, we have the expertise in building real infrastructure and building great things that push forward freedom of expression. I think there's a real opportunity here to help Macedonia and getting ahead on both on an infrastructure level and modernizing this the whole country in a way that puts Macedonia ahead of Europe in every regard. And it's a real moment right now where Macedonia can take the first step in Europe to become at the forefront of digitization and at the forefront of being technologically advanced, both on an infrastructure level and a digital currency level. I'm speaking this week. I'm going to be flying. I'm actually only here I flew in yesterday morning. I'm flying out tonight. I'm heading to Nashville to speak at the Bitcoin conference where Trump will be speaking as well, and Howard Lutnick will be speaking as well. And we see an opportunity here that can really, take Macedonia and jump ahead of the rest of Europe, because when I look at Europe, I see it as a slower moving machine, whereas Macedonia is a smaller country and you can move really fast and you can make real impact really quickly. And I would love to see that. I'm a tech guy, so if we can be part of helping do that, we will. I brought in Howard Lutnick, who helped take Rumble public. He's one of the foremost experts in the finance world, one of the leader in wholesale finance. And I think that he can really help the country as well. So that's why we're here. We're here to see what we can do and help, both on an infrastructure level and in a financial level of helping Macedonia.
Strong words, hopeful words coming from you.
Let me say one thing. I think, for the last 100 years, we looked at Switzerland as being like the lead in the banking sector.
Yeah.
We saw that, and everyone loves Switzerland in so many regards for so many different reasons. I think Macedonia can be the next Switzerland of Europe, if they jump ahead of everybody on the technology side. Wow. All that will take is just the will of the population, the will of the people to want to do it, and the will of the government to make the decision to do it. I think that will put Macedonia in a place that leads the world. Macedonia will become like a rock star in the technology community if they decide they want to go in that direction. And from what I'm hearing, I'm hearing that they're all open ears to it. So this is great to see. It would be wonderful if that happens.
Sounds amazing. So either I'll need to play this every couple of weeks, this interview, or you should come more often and maybe even hold the motivational speeches for the public, because I think you believe in us more than many of us do believe. Do you really believe in the talent of Macedonia? I mean, what we have here right now at your disposal. Are we ready to move that? Not a small step for man, but a giant leap for us all.
Someone asked me that. I'm Macedonian. I've done it at Rumble. So absolutely, Macedonians are extremely capable. I've built a multi-billion-dollar business, and both my parents are Macedonian. I have Macedonian descent. I'm a Canadian still, but there's no reason that Macedonia doesn't have the capacity to do it. You absolutely have the capacity to do it. And if you think you don't, you're selling yourselves short. I'm living the American dream, and I think Macedonia as a nation has a real opportunity in front of it, and I'll do anything to help it. I really believe in it, and I think everybody in the country needs to believe in it, because we are capable.
I talked with you for hours. I just respect that you received us on such short notice and tight schedule. One last question, let's say. Have you ever had It's important, I guess, for the people here. For me, it is. Have you ever had trouble in your life being Macedonian and proud Macedonian like you are?
Trouble in what regard?
Trouble in regard, let's say, you're fond of studying history and maybe sometimes contradicted your opinions with someone who does not believe your philosophy of freedom of expression, but believes in the philosophy of the other guys you're fighting with Rumble also.
Yeah, on the Rumble side, corporate media attacks us all the time. We're always fighting that. It's always a fight there. In the respect, of being Macedonian, you get a little discriminated against, going to certain places in the world.
Like that Meso?
No, not like, it's more like, Macedonians don't exist, some people will say. I've received that a few times. But that just motivates me. Let them do that, because, the more you tell me I can't do something or I am not something, the more I'm going to tell you I am. And I think every Macedonian needs to have that kind of confidence and have that kind of passion. We can't let people push us around and tell us we don't exist or this country shouldn't, exist. That's ridiculous. Like, we're bigger than that. We're smarter than that, and we're stronger than that.
You're a tenacious guy. Besides that, you're a tech genius. I'm so happy that we have you as one of ours, and a man who runs a multi-billion-dollar company and is yet willing to help the country of his parents, his native country. Can I say that?
Yeah.
To move forward with such a big steps. I had questions prepared for 4 hours long documentary or giga interview, but let's leave it for another time. Do promise in front of the camera that we'll have more time next time.
We will have more time.
There is so much I'd like to talk to you about.
Not a problem at all. We'll do a long one. We'll enjoy it. And,
I promised I have a gift for you. Not knowing you're fond of history, this is a book. You'll have time during your flight. This is from a professor. He's both a historian and archivist. It's called Macedonians: The Genesis of the Ethnic Name Through the Millennia. He comes quite often in my show. It's an amazing book, which I'm sure you'd love it. And next time you come here, you'll ask me about Rumble. I'll ask you about this.
Great! I can't wait.
And you have
this is great.
It's signed for you.
Awesome.
So, thank you, Chris. It's been such an honor. Thank you for everything you do, not just for Macedonians, but for the good fight all over the world. Good luck in Nashville, and see you next time you come here.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Ете, тоа беше интервјуто кое го направивме со овој одличен дечко, македонски јунак, за кој имаме среќа што не само што е од тука, туку и ја сака Македонија на свој храбар, иновативен и искрен начин, бидејќи има и такви меѓу нас кои не се баш во голема љубов со сопствената земја и гледаат што може повеќе да приграбат од неа па да фатат џаде. Крис Павловски своите милиарди ги направил далеку одовде, но ги враќа назад во татковината на неговите родители и ветува на вистина можност за светла иднина ако се реализираат плановите кои ги имаат заедно, како што кажа, со новата администрација, новата власт во Македонија. Нешто за што Крис Павловски вели дека му делува надежно. Па надежно ми делува и мене. Верувам дека ви делуваше и вам. А времето пред нас ќе покаже каде ќе стигнеме по овој пат по кој сме тргнале. Но важно е дека тргнавме. Првиот чекор е одлучен и одличен. Тоа беше се за вечерва. До утре по 22:30 стандардна процедура Македонија. Гледајте, слушајте, размислувајте, анализирајте, излекувајте собствени заклучоци и дзирнете го. Рамбл еден ден сигурно ќе ни треба. Добра ноќ, главата горе.